Why your cat actually fears them, biology explained. There is a moment that happens long before any movement starts, and it is so subtle that most people missed it without ever realizing it existed. Your cat, however, does not pass it. Before a person speaks, before they reach out a hand, and even before they fully enter the room, your cat has already begun forming a silent conclusion. What appears to us as a random dislike or an unexplained fear toward one specific individual is, in reality, the result of a deeply worked biological process. Felines are not reacting to personality in the way we understand it. They are responding to patterns, small, layered signals that accumulate into a single ultimate decision. Safe or not safe. The way cats read a human presence. Unlike humans, who depend heavily on language and conscious interpretation, cats exist in a world of continuous monitoring. They do not wait for context to be explained. Instead, they collect information through movement, posture, and subtle changes in energy. When someone enters your home, your cat is not assessing who that person is on a social level, but rather how that person moves through space. The rhythm of their footsteps, the direction of their body, the tension or relaxation in their breathing. All of these details are processed instantly. Even stillness carries meaning, because in the natural world, stillness often signals focus, and focus can suggest intent. In this way, a person who appears completely normal to you may already feel unpredictable to your cat. What deepens this perception is the fact that cats do not separate individual signals. They layer them together into a single, continuous impression. A slightly faster step combined with direct movement toward them, a body that leans forward rather than softens to the side, or a presence that fills space too quickly can all merge into a pattern that feels difficult to read. To a human, these are harmless variations in behavior, but to a cat, they can resemble the early stages of pursuit or pressure. This is why some people seem to trigger an immediate reaction without ever doing anything obviously wrong. The cat is not responding to one action, but to the overall coherence of signals, and whether those signals allow space, predictability, and choice. Eye contact and the misunderstood signal. One of the most common mismatches between human and feline communication lies in eye contact. For humans, looking directly at someone is a sign of attention and connection, but in the animal world, sustained eye contact often carries a very different implication. It can signal dominance, challenge, or even the beginning of a predatory sequence. When a person looks directly at a cat, especially with curiosity or enthusiasm, the cat does not interpret this as friendliness. Instead, it may register as pressure, as if attention has narrowed onto them in a way that limits their sense of control. This is why a cat may look away, freeze, or quietly leave the space when faced with what we believe is a gentle gaze. The invisible layer, scent and internal state. Beyond what we can see, there is another layer of communication that operates almost entirely outside of human awareness. Cats possess the ability to detect subtle chemical signals that reflect a person's internal state, including traces of stress-related hormones. While we may not notice any difference between individuals, a cat can distinguish variations in scent that suggest tension, unfamiliar environments, or heightened physiological arousal. Some people naturally carry these signals more strongly, not because they are dangerous, but because their internal state is more active or variable. To a cat, this does not translate as a clear threat, but rather as unpredictability, and unpredictability is something their instincts are designed to approach with caution. Movement, sound, and the memory of predators. The way a person moves through space also plays a critical role in how they are perceived. Heavier footsteps, faster movements, or abrupt changes in direction can unconsciously resemble the approach patterns of larger animals. While a human may simply be walking with confidence or energy, a cat's nervous system interprets these signals through a much older framework. One shaped by survival in environments where recognizing the approach of a predator meant the difference between safety and danger. This does not mean the person is threatening in reality, but rather that certain elements of their movement align with patterns that trigger caution. The paradox of trying too hard. Interestingly, The individuals that cats react to most strongly are often the ones who are actively trying to create a connection. When someone leans in, reaches out quickly, or attempts to engage with enthusiasm, they unintentionally increase the intensity of the interaction. From a human perspective, this is friendliness, but from a cat's perspective, it can feel like pressure that arrives too quickly and without enough space for evaluation. As a result, the more effort that is applied, the more the cat withdraws, creating a cycle in which both sides reinforce the distance without fully understanding why it is happening. How cats form lasting impressions. Once a cat associates a person with uncertainty, that impression tends to persist. Cats do not rapidly reinterpret interactions in the way humans often do. Instead, they build continuity over time. The first impression carries significant weight because, from an evolutionary standpoint, reassessing too quickly could be risky. Even if a person later behaves more calmly or predictably, the cat may continue to approach them with caution, not out of stubbornness, but as a form of consistency in their internal model of the world. What reinforces this pattern is the way cats prioritize emotional memory over isolated events. They do not store interactions as separate moments, but as a continuous feeling associated with a presence. If the initial experience contained even a slight sense of pressure, unpredictability, or lack of control, that underlying tone can remain attached to the person long after the situation has changed. Over time, each new encounter is filtered through that original impression, making it slower for the cat to update its perception. This is why rebuilding trust often appears gradual and almost invisible. The cat is not simply reacting to what is happening now, but carefully comparing it to what was felt before, adjusting only when a new pattern proves consistent enough to feel safe. What this behavior really means. When a cat chooses to hide, observe from a distance, or quietly leave the room in response to a particular person, it is not an act of rejection in the emotional sense that humans often assign to it. It is a measured response to a collection of signals that do not yet feel fully safe. In many ways, this behavior reflects intelligence rather than fearfulness. The cat is not overreacting. It is maintaining a margin of safety while continuing to observe and gather information. What is often overlooked is that this distance is not permanent. It is conditional. A cat that creates space is still engaged, still aware, and still evaluating, just from a position that allows control over the situation. By choosing distance instead of confrontation, the cat avoids escalation while preserving the option to move closer if the signals begin to change. In this sense, avoidance is not a shutdown but a strategy, one that keeps the cat both protected and open to new information. The subtle path toward trust. Over time, however, these patterns are not fixed. When the intensity of interaction is reduced, when a person stops trying to engage directly, avoids prolonged eye contact, and simply shares space without expectation, the cat is given the opportunity to reassess at its own pace. Trust, in this context, is not something that can be actively created through effort, but something that emerges when signals of pressure are consistently absent. Small changes begin to appear, often so subtle that they are easy to miss. The cat remains in the room a little longer, glances without immediately looking away, or chooses a position that is slightly closer than before. These are not dramatic shifts, but they represent a gradual redefinition of safety. A different way of seeing. What appears on the surface as a cat disliking a person is, in reality, a complex and highly sensitive system of perception at work. Cats notice details that most humans have long stopped paying attention to, and their reactions reflect a world that is shaped less by intention and more by signals. When we begin to understand this, the behavior starts to feel less mysterious and more like a quiet form of intelligence. One that operates continuously, even when nothing obvious is happening. If you begin to look at these moments more carefully, you may find that your cat is constantly offering small insights into how they experience the world. Not through dramatic actions, but through subtle choices of distance, attention, and presence. And in those quiet decisions, there is something worth noticing. If this way of seeing your cat feels different, you can continue exploring it here. Each episode is an invitation to slow down, observe more closely, and understand what is often missed in everyday interactions. And if someone in your life has ever wondered why their cat avoids a particular person, this perspective may help them see that behavior in an entirely new way.